Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Marvel Strike Force. Today, I'm going to do a quick guide for newer players on hero positioning. When you're building your teams, what to keep in mind when you're placing your characters, because when you just place them, I think there's a thought process about who you're thinking you want in your team and how you're putting them together. And if we empty this out and we look at how it places characters when you place them, I think generally the first thing people think about is a tank. And it makes sense, actually. You've got 3 in the front row, 2 in the back row. I think that it makes sense to think that you would want your tank front and center, right? In the midst of it, attract all the damage to him, protect the rest of the team. That just kind of seems to make sense, right? And the way that it's structured, it just kind of seems like the tank or the leader would be up front, so you would think Captain America, straight front and center. He's the taunting tank. He's going to draw all the attention to himself and keep it away from everybody else. So those two things, I think, are why teams get structured the way they do in the early game a lot. You'll see a lot of this. And this starts to it gets more important the further you get, obviously. But having a good foundation, a good understanding of it early on so that you can grow on that as you progress is going to be really helpful. So the reason that it's important is because you've got a lot of different types of attacks in this game. You've got your single target attacks, you have your AoE attacks, which if you've played these games before, you're probably familiar with AoE. That just means area of effect. It means it's going to hit at multiple targets. Usually when you say AoE in these games, it just means all enemies. It means it's going to hit everybody on the enemy team. One thing you have in this game that you don't have in some of the other games is chained attacks. Attacks on adjacent targets. Adjacent, if we just pop a team in here real quick, adjacent is anyone diagonally adjacent to a particular character. So if we look at Iron Man, Spider-Man and Black Widow are adjacent to him right now. So if someone hits Iron Man with an attack that chains to adjacent targets or damages adjacent targets, these are the candidates. So if it's going to chain in one way or the other, it's going to roll one of them. If it hurts adjacent targets, it's going to hit all 3 of these characters, okay? Whereas on the ends, if we look at Thor and Captain America, the only heroes on our team that are adjacent to them are Black Widow and Spider-Man, right? So there's only one adjacent character to whoever's on the end. Now this gets more and more important again as you go on, but this can reduce the amount of damage that your team takes overall, okay? If Captain America taunts and someone has an attack that damages all adjacent targets, if Captain America's in the middle, your 2 backline heroes are going to take damage. Whereas if he's taunting and he's on the end, just this character's going to take damage, right? Well, and Captain America, but that's the only adjacent hero, so that's the only extra target that takes damage. If he's in the middle and someone's attack chains to 2, 3, 4, however many adjacent targets, it's going to go one way or the other, and it could potentially hit this back line and potentially hit this front line. If he's on the end, and this is where it can get a little tricky, if he's on the end, it could chain all the way through the team, right? If someone has an attack like Daredevil has one that chains through several targets, he could chain all the way through the team theoretically. So, understanding how that works, there are some things and some stipulations that can break chained attacks. And I think it can be different depending on the heroes, but if someone dodges, that can break a chain. If someone is invisible, that can break a chain. If someone's not there, if they're dead, that can break a chain, right? If there's no one to chain to, they can't chain. So there are things that can break chained attacks. So, what does all this mean? What's all this rambling getting to? The idea, the basic general idea, is to put your taunting tank, and that's a character that taunts, that's designed to take a lot of punishment, right? So Luke Cage, Captain America. Let's look at the Luke Cage team, since you'll probably have access to all that a little earlier on. And let's put, just for the sake of the argument, let's put Spider-Man here. Luke Cage is on the end. He has a taunt. He's got a defense buff. He takes care of himself, right? He's a tough dude. He's going to take a lot of damage. We put him on the end, and we put Spider-Man behind him. Why do we put Spider-Man behind him? We put Spider-Man behind him because Spider-Man has good chance to evade, right? He's very likely to dodge attacks, a lot more likely than a lot of other characters in the game. So, if someone has a chained attack and it can be broken by evasion, then Spider-Man will put an end to it, right? And then Daredevil also has pretty good chances to evade based on some certain things. So if it gets through Spider-Man, then maybe he can evade. But what we're doing is we're kind of shifting all the damage over to this side of the team, and then we've got our support and our heal. So like our little support duo here. And we just try to draw as much damage off of them as we can, right? I believe Daredevil can counterattack as well, which can break some chained attacks. So there's a lot of things that can go on between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones to interrupt anything that may make its way from him to her, okay? So you can see how this starts to get more and more important depending on what team you're building, who you're putting on that team, what content it is you're doing. This starts to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's so many levels to this, and as you climb in the game, you'll start to discover a lot more of it. But this is kind of in its most basic form, kind of what you should keep in mind when you're structuring a team. When you're putting your Defenders team together if you're earlier game, when you're putting your Guardians team together when you're earlier game, something along these lines, right? We've got our taunting tank down here on the end, and Drax is fantastic because he's basically got permanent taunt. He'll just keep taunt up on himself. So we've got Gamora back here, Star-Lord, and then squishy damage and heals over on here. Again, we're trying to shift all the damage to one side of the team and protect the supports, right? The squishier ones and the supports. So that is kind of the basic idea behind positioning. So let's hop into a battle. Let's do a couple of battles with them real quick and just see it in practice. See what it looks like. You'll see when Luke Cage taunts, and it kind of, again, we're just trying to shift the damage over to one side of the team, the side of the team that can handle it, right? We want to keep our heals around. We want to keep our cleanses around. We want to keep our little squishies around. So let's go ahead and let them go at it. I'm pretty stoked about all the new characters that are in the game since I stopped playing. I almost had all the heroes in the game when I stopped, and now there's a ton. There's a ton of new stuff. There's a legitimate X-Men team, Brotherhood, Fantastic Four. I'm really excited to get in here and start building these teams. So you'll see here too, this team has Hulk up front in the middle with taunt. So it's not really drawing any damage away from the rest of the team, right? Whereas we're kind of trying to keep our squishies safe over here with support. And, it kind of looked like it was going to get bad for a second, but now we've recovered from it because Luke Cage is keeping our little squishies safe over here. One of these days, they will actually kill the Hulk. Get him out of here. So Spider-Man's gone, which sucks that someone died, but now when Luke Cage taunts, there's nothing to chain to. So chained attacks are not really going to be a big problem now. So, and we're still going to be fine because these four have crazy good synergy. And again, now our taunting tank is separated from the rest of the team. So if he's got taunt up, everybody else is fine unless there's some heavy AoE that could come in on us. But you can see we're going to speed this up. You can see we're going to be fine. And that's kind of again, there are different strategies to this. There are different takes on this. There are a lot of people doing a lot of different things, which keeps it interesting, right? Keeps you on your toes. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but I just wanted to share with you the basic idea so that you have something to work with moving forward as you're pushing through the campaign, as you're doing your blitz and trying to climb up an arena and building these different teams. I just wanted you to have some sort of concept in mind of team placement, just so that you're not dropping them all and thinking that a team with synergy is enough, right? Thinking that a Defenders team is enough to just be as good as they can be no matter where they're placed. They are very good, and they do have really good synergy. Same with the Guardians, same with, a lot of the teams in the game have fantastic synergy, but you can multiply their effectiveness just by understanding the basics of how to place heroes in a team and protect the ones that need protecting and shift damage to a particular size. So I hope that this was helpful. I would be interested to know, any of you that have been playing for a little bit, what kind of strategies you employ for hero placement, because again, I've been out of the game for a little bit. Some things may have changed. There might be some stuff that has surfaced since I stopped playing that I don't know about. So I would be interested to hear your thoughts, how you approach it. If you have any tips that you want to share with anybody watching the video, please drop them in the comments. I'm always down for more information down in the comments. Other than that, we're pretty much done here. If you got something out of this, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video. Subscribe if you want to see more. And that's it. Appreciate it. Have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow.